There's a link between all the games in this video. Sit back, catch your breath for a while, and see if you can figure out what it is.
If you win, I'll end your punishment and set you free.
Hello, and sorry about that. It's been 5 years now since The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild came out, and here on PC, we can still only look on longingly at it like a restaurant patron who panic-ordered watching the meal they actually wanted being sent out to the table next to them. It's a beautiful open world that trusts you to explore it and uncover its mysteries at your own pace, hiding tons of depth beneath a friendly and accessible exterior. We want it so badly. So, what we've done is gone and find 7 PC games that look, feel, and play quite a lot like it. Games that scratch that very particular itch, who've either used Breath of the Wild as a jumping off point, or who remind you of it in subtler ways, paying their dues to the older 16-bit Zeldas instead. If you hit the subscribe button now, we'll do our best not to unleash any more 1 out of 10 score puns, and leave us a like if one of these games curbs your craving. Let's get to it.
Are you travelers from around here as well?
We just happened to be passing by. What are you cooking? Smells good!
At first glance, you might actually think you're looking at Breath of the Wild here. There are fields of painterly grass swaying in the breeze, a hero climbing all over everything in sight, a stamina bar, and even enemies who crumble to bits when you smack them dead. And cooking. And Genshin Impact has certainly drawn those comparisons, so if you're looking for a modern Zelda fix on PC, it's certainly a good start. But it's not a like-for-like game though.
Oh, so sorry.
Breath of the Wild's progression system was extremely light touch, and here it's absolutely everywhere. New characters to unlock, new ways to improve them in countless directions, new weapons to equip those characters with. It's endless. And it's also full of loot boxes. So if that's a red flag for you, keep watching for plenty more games.
Oh, but everyone has their secrets, right? Relax. I won't press you for more.
Like Genshin Impact, Ubisoft's 2020 RPG Immortals seems to view Breath of the Wild as a genre of its own, and thus fair game for some pretty liberal cribbing. Also like Genshin Impact, they're not identical. But, well, look at this.
I know how you feel, kid. You do everything you can for them, and then they betray you.
Not only is the world full of beautificent pastel shades and greenery blowing in the breeze, your hero also loves to clamber about and glide from the heights he's just climbed as much as he enjoys a good arrow shot or a weirdly floaty puzzle in a mystical dungeon. However, you've got a whole story going on here that's about gods and revenge, and yes, we suppose that does sound a teeny bit like God of War, but when all of those inspirations come together, Immortals stands on its own feet as an RPG with a great world to explore and all the mechanics to master.
My favorite castle.
You chained me to this rock and fed my liver to an eagle.
Out of love.
There's a sense of magic to your surroundings in Tunic, even before you start travelling through psychedelic corridors of spiritual awakening and visiting otherworldly dimensions. It's the same kind of magic you feel in Zelda games, just a slightly heightened and much cozier version of reality, where forests are that bit more beautiful, and where there's probably a cool sword and a chest in a dungeon within 500 paces from you at all times. This strikingly pretty indie takes more cues from the older Zelda games on the SNES than Breath of the Wild, but what it does have in common with Link's later adventures is that enigmatic storytelling and the way it lets you just discover mechanics instead of laying them out in painful tutorial sequences. You feel like the lone adventurer, figuring out a mystical kingdom, not the jaded gamer being taken by the hand through a theme park full of woodland heroic type stuff. Despite some moments of mild peril, Breath of the Wild is generally friendlier than a Sunday school bake sale. So, a game called Death's Door that looks like this, and in which you play as a Reaper, seems like it's a bit of a departure from the brief. Once you get past that darker first impression though, what you get is a stylish and fresh indie with some definite old school Zelda vibes. The afterlife it imagines in its settings is one of endless bureaucracy, and you lowly crow, are sent out to fetch a soul from a monster who's not quite finished with it yet. In the process, he tells you about a grand conspiracy that sends you, quite literally, to death's door, via all manner of dungeons, boss fights, and macabre gags. Link would be scandalised, we're sure, but there's a lot gan on in this one. No, sorry. Yeah, no, we'll see ourselves out. Just that door there, is it? Yeah, cool. Catch you later. Sorry. Humans never reached the top of the food chain in the alternate universe of Twirlbound's 2019 love letter to recent Link adventures, Pine. It's an interesting idea, that. How often do we take for granted our ability to pop down to the shops with little to no fear of being eaten by the neighbourhood apex predator? Anyway, we're getting distracted. As a vulnerable fleshy human among more developed tribes of things that could eat you, you survive not just through combat, but by trade and social engineering. You can persuade tribes to modify their behaviour in certain ways to suit your agenda, like telling them a powerful storm's coming and playing them off against each other. That layer of interaction with the world is a step beyond Breath of the Wild's blueprint and gives Pine plenty of extra intrigue when you've had your fill of exploring its beautiful biomes. And now for something completely different. You're not working up to an almighty face-off with Ganon in Toren, or with anyone else for that matter. It's light on combat and puzzles, short in length, and doesn't go deep into a systemic open world. So why is it here? It's all about the atmosphere and the enigmatic storytelling style that Brazilian developer Sword Tales conjures up here. Over the course of 2 hours, you start as a small child and age as you go, falling into dream sequences that reveal a breadcrumb trail of what's going on, but mostly just let you free to frolic in a surreal natural space. Making mushroom soup and climbing massive mountains can get tiring for anyone, so consider Toren your slightly Zelda-tinged meditation space before rushing back into more complex open worlds on this list. Just as supergroups never quite seem to reach the heights achieved by their individual members, Hollywood Vampires, Muckbusted, Audioslave, looking at you, all the big names involved in this RPG couldn't seem to save it from mere cult status. Fantasy novelist R.A. Salvatore wrote the world, comic book legend Todd McFarlane drew it, and Morrowind and Oblivion lead designer Ken Ralston designed it. And it was actually good too. But it still passed most people by as they waited for Skyrim. The 2020 remaster is a chance to right that wrong, and also to inhabit an RPG world with every bit as much depth as Hyrule. Full of crafting, alchemy, lovely watercolour painting scenery, traditional fantasy elements and weirder stuff meeting in the middle, it's a game you can get lost in, if you're willing to look past its earnest NPCs and slightly retro visuals now. You can't make mushroom soup and then go shield tobogganing like Link can, but you can perform a fate shift attack on enemies that looks like this, so, well, enough said. We've come to the end of the video, but there are many more games out there with Zelda in their DNA, so tell us your favourites below in the comments. If you leave us a thumbs up, we promise to sack whoever wrote the puns in this video, and we will see you in the next one.
You've always been my hero, my North Star. I will bring you back. I swear it.